Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. We are speaking today about the highly relevant topic of more efficiency and sustainability in logistics with digitalization and IoT. My name is Ariane Fuchs. I'm part of the marketing team at Deutsche Telekom IoT, and I am joined today by my colleagues Florian Schröter and Dr. Anton Schäfer. Florian Schröter is a sales expert at Deutsche Telekom IoT for the industry of transport and logistics, and Dr. Anton Schäfer is the industry lead at T-Systems for travel, transport, and logistics. So let's start. First of all, we would like you to take a quick look at Germany's climate targets. Of course, we're using Germany here as an example. This topic is relevant for pretty much every country on the planet right now. But just to give you a rough idea, we can clearly see that Germany has committed to a high number of CO2 emissions that it wants to save. So by 2030, we are planning in Germany to save a substantial amount of CO2 in comparison to 2020. As I said, this is pretty much relevant for every country on the planet. And what we can see right here, there's still a really long way to go. And we still have to act in this context to make the difference that we need. Of course, there is a high number of reasons for businesses to act sustainable and to commit to sustainability. We're taking a closer look today at the environmental part of sustainability. Of course, there's plenty of reasons, but just to give you a rough idea here again, there's of course a shift in the B2C market, which can be felt by the B2B market as well. Customers do have clear preferences for ecologically friendly products. Of course, there's also global politics that are forcing the industries to act sustainable and to save CO2 emissions and greenhouse gas emissions in general. This can also be felt by a wide range of punishments that are pretty much done by the politics in order to force businesses to act sustainable. So there's really an urgent need here. B2B customers do have high expectations of their suppliers. So this pretty much has a domino effect because businesses do want their suppliers to act sustainable as well. So there's an urgent need here too. And of course, companies do have to satisfy the requirements of different groups of stakeholders. We're not just talking about customers, but also about public groups, for example, NGOs, etc. And of course, also investors do exercise pressure on the market and with this regards too. We here at Deutsche Telekom did recognize this shift and this pressure, of course. So we did commit for ourselves to really act sustainable. We not only want to enable our customers to drive sustainability for themselves, but also for our own supply chain, for example, we do commit to sustainability in the long run and have a wide range of different climate targets for the whole group. Just to give you a quick look at our DT climate targets, there's a wide range of different commitments that we actually established for ourselves. For example, we want to achieve net zero for in-house emissions, including up to 95% of reduction from the comparison to 2017 to 2025. But just to give you a quick look at what we want to do ourselves. But I would like to actually hand over to my colleague to give you a better idea of the topic with regards to logistics.
Thank you, Ariane. So as you can see, Deutsche Telekom is having high targets to act more sustainable, but we're also helping our partners and our customers to become more sustainable and to achieve better results on climate neutrality. So we are convinced that IoT and digitalization are a key enabler for doing so, especially because it generally requires lower investments and, by example, replacing a complete fleet with e-mobility or so on. And we're not the only ones. So you can see a couple of studies here, UN Sustainability Development Goals. There has been a questionnaire by the World Economic Forum that 84% of IoT applications support these goals. Also, a Bitkom study in Germany refers to that more than 50% of the companies are convinced that digitalization is helping them to become more sustainable. And you see a couple of points here what digitalization IoT can do. CO2 emission reduction is one of them. but there is a couple of other things going down to the positive image, and we're going back to what we said in the beginning, that there is definitely a business necessity to look for sustainability out of different reasons. So going to the next page, concerning logistics, we are quite working along on multiple activities because we are also, especially in logistics, we are convinced that we can support our customers on sustainability. And you see a couple of examples here, what we do and did in the last year. So we have a dedicated web page on sustainability on IoT. You can see the address there. We had a conference last year in Germany on sustainability in transport logistics, where we distracted a couple of points and measures on how companies can become more sustainable using digital or IoT-based tools. We used this list and matched it with our experience and came to 10 measures, which we will now present to you in some detail. So you see the list of 10 here. Going through them quickly, my colleague then will go in more detail and give you some examples for most of them. First of all, you all know dynamic route optimization. Definitely taking the most efficient route is saving petrol, is saving CO2 emissions. So this is a direct enabler helping you to become more sustainable. Second point, condition monitoring and localization of goods. This is referring to the point that we can actually measure with sensor-based, so it's an IoT solution, if goods transported are keeping the temperature, for example, and are not rotting away, so that they're really reaching their target in the condition they can be sold or further used, and they are not wasted. So that is a definitely waste reduction tool. Third point, 5G campus networks for autonomous vehicles. You can become, that is the network based. I mean, we are Deutsche Telekom, so network is one of our key features on our key capabilities, and we are helping companies here to operate on their yards and on their depots or in their company sites more efficiently and thus sustainable. Fourth point, smart building, making your building more efficient, more sustainable. Simple example: a window doesn't have to be open when the heating is on full speed, though, or a light has not be on when nobody is in the room. So that is very simple ways to save energy and become more sustainable again. Fifth point, predictive maintenance, really using tools, production sites most efficiently and only maintain when it's really needed. Sixth point is yard logistics. We have quite extensive solutions to operate on the yard more efficiently, and we've seen with a couple of customers that there have been some chaotic situations and inefficiency on handling the deloading and loading of trucks, which can be done in a more efficient and sustainable way, which is also using your workforce more sustainable because the waiting time generally is reduced. The seventh point, establish data exchange. That is become working together. So different people, different companies on a supply chain, keyword digital supply chain transparency, cooperating by not sharing their data totally open, but for a common purpose. And there is a solution, the International Data Space solution by Fraunhofer, and more than 100 companies who joined. We have an architecture here which helps you to implement that and to collaborate with your partners. Eighth point, low carbon mobility management is an app-based tool to which allows you to measure your CO2 emissions simply based on an algorithm. And is a very important measure for tool and transport management, for fleet and transport management. Ninth point, very important, paperless logistics. there are a couple of activities going on, like digital delivery node. There is a big project currently with GS1 and Bundesverband Logistics on a digital delivery node, but other points are digital freight paper. Solutions here can help to reduce the waste of paper. And last but not least, e-charging. I also mentioned e-charging is coming more and more important, even in logistics. The fleets get changed, but you need a stable e-charging infrastructure, and Deutsche Telekom has a solution for that. So this was a quick run through of 10 digital solutions which enable you to become more efficient and sustainable. And my colleague Florian Schröter now is giving you some concrete examples where we implemented those with customers.
Thank you, Anton. So the first solution I would like to briefly introduce to you is one of our numerous fleet, respectively telematics solutions. Our customer Advant Gebäudedienste, a facility services provider with over 350 employees at 10 locations, was looking for an intelligent solution that would enable him to manage his employees centrally. After testing different solutions from us, Avant decided on a fleet solution from our partner Fleet Complete. With this solution, Avant was able to optimize the trips of its cleaning teams through smart route navigation and to adapt flexibly to any customer request at all times. The advantages of our solution you can see here are lower fuel consumption, reduced CO2 emissions, and 15 until 20% lower costs. On the next slide, we see the second solution I would like to briefly outline. This is one of our numerous track and trace solutions for condition monitoring and localization of goods and commodities. There are a number of customer challenges, especially when transporting temperature-sensitive goods. The most current example, I think, is certainly the issue of vaccines. It is particularly important that the vaccines arrive at the vaccination centers or doctors' offices without interrupting the cold chain. But we also have this challenge with food. Also here it is important that a minimum temperature is maintained when transporting perishable goods. Our solution here was a joint project with our partners Flock and For Smart Logistics. The Smart Tracker reports the respective position and the condition of the load in real time to our cloud via our mobile network. And the clear advantages of our solution for our customer, both the supplier and of course the recipient, in our case was a large food retailer, know at all times where the goods are, when they will arrive at the destination, and in what condition they are in. So on one hand, this means that transport damage can be avoided, for example, by noticing at an early stage that the cold chain has been interrupted and taking appropriate action. And on the other hand, fuel and fleet costs can be lowered and carbon dioxide emissions can be reduced. The third solution I would like to briefly present to you is a 5G campus network for autonomous transport vehicles on the shop floor. We built the solution for the very first time about 2 years ago for our long-time customer, Osram. Osram had two key requirements for us: to speed up today's sophisticated and automated production and logistics processes. Machines in the production environment need to be wirelessly connected. Osram wanted to introduce autonomous transport vehicles to support the processes. So our solution for Osram, we have set up a separate private 5G campus network, so for the very first time at Osram's plant premises near Munich, in addition to the publicly available LTE radio network. This allowed us to assure our customer the network resources necessary for its production and logistics, and Osram now had the ability to monitor its processes in real time and make configurations on its machines remotely. We also have various IoT solutions for buildings in our portfolio, like Anton already mentioned before. Our customer ISS, one of the world's largest facility management companies with almost 500,000 employees, wanted to have more transparency about the comfort parameters in its buildings. So, for example, the temperature and the CO2 or the air quality. And ISS also wanted to have more transparency about the utilization of the buildings they are managing. Our customer's goal here was quite clear: to save resources and costs. By using our smart building solution, Building Monitoring and Analytics, ISS was able to significantly reduce energy consumption, save resources, significantly reduce its cost, and significantly increase the comfort for its customers, so the owners of the buildings. And last but not least, we would like, oh no, I think this is the thing. I hand over to Anton again. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. So to me, actually, the smart building and also low carbon mobility management are two nice examples on how simple IoT and digital methods can help to get more sustainable by at the same time become more efficient. And the low carbon mobility I already mentioned is a simple app-based solution which allows you to measure on a vehicle, so it can be a truck, but it can also be a car. It just has to be pre-configured simply by using your smartphone, the petrol consumption and thus the CO2 emissions. So for that reason, we are applying that for a couple of customers, helping them to first get transparency on their CO2 emissions in heterogeneous fleet, or also with their subcontractors, because they are just giving their subcontractors this app and measuring the CO2 emission, and also steering the emissions by driver trainings and driver information on driving more sustainable. So for that, this is a very simple. It can be very quickly implemented and used to achieve here an overarching transparency on the transport sustainability and CO2 emissions.
Okay, now again, last but not least, we would like to mention that we also have an extensive portfolio of e-charging services. We would be very pleased to be your future contact for services related to the topic of charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. So our services include here the planning and installation of the charging infrastructure for your require, the necessary connectivity, on-site services in case of maintenance and repairs, the provision of the required hardware, so charging stations and the corresponding accessories, the energy management, and last but not least, the entire billing process. And with this, I hand back to you, Ariane.
Thank you so much, Florian and Anton. So, of course, we would like to stress that all the different solutions and all the different use cases that were just presented are just a brief or just a really small part of the whole supply chain. And of course, there's so much more we can do. So just to give you a quick outlook of what there's more to come, we decided to quickly show you this really big picture, actually, of the whole logistics value chain. And we would like to thank you very much for joining. And if you happen to have any questions, feel free to contact us. We would like to thank you very much, as I said, for your attention, and hope to see you again soon.